Hey, what's going guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now in this video we will be discussing about that how I created these nice and realistic water splashes inside of Blender. We'll be also discussing about the material, so stick around till the end as you may not have expected that how I created them. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Jumping over to the Blender window, here's what the setup looks like. Basically I've created it using a mixture of force fields and fluid simulation. But in the fluid simulation, I've done something which is very unusual, so we'll talk about it later after we talk about the force fields. So for our first force field, we have the wind force field, and I've set the strength to 128. So it is pointing in a direction which is a bit more upwards and not too upwards, because if I do that it will just push all of the particles above and it won't look very realistic. So I just wanted to push the particles upwards just a bit and just slightly. Next we have another wind force field, and what it is basically doing is pushing the particles downwards after the splashes end. So if I go over to 86th frame, as you can see here, the strength is 52, and in the next frame I've set it to 86, in the next 150, and finally I've set it to 225. So what it is doing is it is just pushing these particles down. If I just play this animation, as you can see here, it has pushed all of these particles downwards. So in the final render, or with all of the assets, as you can see, it looks like that it is disappearing when in fact they are actually pushed down, as you can see. So let's just only make these available again and see them in the local view. So that's pretty much about the force fields, and we just have one more force field which is called the turbulence force field. Now I added in this turbulence force field and I adjusted these settings, as you can see. Basically this turbulence force field, what it does is basically adds a bit more variety and variation to the particles and how do they move and where do they move. So the particles are not just moving in a straight line, but rather they are being spread out in a random way. Now talking about the fluid simulation, so when I baked this simulation, I've set it to 164 divisions, as I thought that it produces the right amount of particles, as we won't be really using the actual fluid simulation which is right over here. And then of course I've turned on spray and foam, and I've adjusted these settings. You can just copy them. These settings just make this simulation a bit more realistic. Next, I think this is all about the simulation, and basically what I did was, as the particles, I just set them to icospheres, and notice how they aren't perfect icospheres, but rather some of them are bent and squished around. That is because I have selected, let me see, yes, I've selected for the foam I've selected one icosphere, but for the spray I've selected a whole collection, and in that collection we have two icospheres. And if you just go over to the local view, let's see, and as you can see here, these are the two icospheres. They are a bit more bent and a bit more stretched to make it more realistic. Now if you go back to the local view of the fluid simulation, so what do we have left? So one thing that you can just see is that the settings I've changed make it so that the actual fluid simulation isn't going anywhere a lot. So it is basically just in the same place while the particles are flying around, and basically the particles are the main thing, and the main you could say the main splashes, and the actual fluid simulation is just a placeholder for the particles to start from. So I hope it has made a bit more clear that how I created these. Next up, let's discuss about the materials. Now for the material, it is really basic. If you have Blender 3.6, I'm pretty sure, and if you bake a fluid simulation, this is the default material that comes out. If you go over to the shader editor, and let's see, Yeah, so this is the default material, and I just have changed the color. So I've changed it to a slightly bluish or cyan color, but as this is the volume absorption node, it has changed it to a much more darker, as it absorbed and combined with the glass PSDF, it gave it that look, as you can see, a watery look. So if we just replay the animation, this is how it looks like. Now it is a short render, but it should make it clear that how the splash is looking, and combined with the motion blur, as in this scene I have, they make it much more realistic, as you can see. So basically, let's cover up what we have studied so far. The particles emit from the emitter. They keep on emitting, and there are three force fields, one to add more variation and one to push it a bit more upwards, and one that will mostly act when the simulation ends or when we want the splashes to go away. So till this part they are just emitting, and till this part they start you could say evaporating, as it is meant to be. So basically it isn't really evaporating. The force field, this force field, it's just starting to act, and it is just pushing the particles downwards. So it feels like that the particles are less and less, and it feels like that they're evaporating, but in reality they are just being pushed down. So I hope this had made a bit more sense, and this had cleared up the concept of how to make splashes, car splashes specifically inside of Blender. This took a lot of time to figure out and a lot of experimenting as well. So I hope you would like and subscribe for more videos like these, and I will see you around later. See ya.